What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another video. Now this one is one that I promised I would make. In my previous video I talked about a little bit. In my last two videos I think actually I touched on a bit about my 9/11 experience, and I said that I would make a dedicated video sharing that with you guys. And you know, it's crazy, right? Because I think every single one of us has a 9/11 story, a 9/11 experience. You know, like we all have, you know, some moment that we can recall from that day, or something that we went through, or something that, you know, just when you have something that huge happen, and it's hard to even sometimes even want to remember it, right? Or even talk about it or discuss it, because it brings back a lot of painful memories. But it's also important to do that sometimes, right? Like you saw the reaction I did yesterday, where it was, taking a moment to celebrate the first responders and the sacrifices they made to help others. You know, and it's just such a brave and incredible thing to know what they did and what they gave. And some of them paid the ultimate price to attempt to help save someone else's life. It's just such a heroic and amazing thing to see, you know, what so many did in the heat of the moment with so many unknowns and not knowing what was going on. And that's part of my story. So I'm going to share my experience, because my experience is, you know, basically just a lot of the fear factor of not knowing exactly what was happening, except, you know, bits and pieces of information that was just kind of slowly coming through. But ultimately not knowing, I think, created the ultimate, I guess, fear in my particular experience, and I'm sure in a lot of the others. And that's one thing about this event. You know, I'm sure that every single person who was, you know, alive at that point in time has some sort of memory or story or experience that they can share, because it's just one of those moments in history that, you know, when you think about things that happen in your life and you think about certain dates, and you can pinpoint exactly what you were doing when that happened, and exactly where you were and who you were with and all that kind of stuff. This is one of those events, because in our lifetimes it's probably one of the most biggest and absolutely devastating, insanely unbelievable, just diabolical events that could ever happen. And so many people senselessly lost their life, and it's just horrible. It's just horrible. So, but look, I'm going to share my experience. And if you guys have an experience that you want to share, you can leave it in the comments below, and I'll make a follow-up video and, you know, maybe share your experiences and stuff. Fortunately, it looks like I didn't really get that many people sharing in the previous video, where I was asking people to jot down their experiences in the comments. So what I'll do is I'll wait, and I'll use that video along with this video, and then I'll make a separate video, like a podcast video or something, discussing all of it and just kind of doing it that way. So hopefully we get a lot more of you guys to share your stories and your experiences. I really love that. So drop it in the comments, your 9/11 experience, your 9/11 story. Please share it with us. And so I'm gonna share mine. So mine is crazy because I was with my girlfriend at the time, and it is so crazy that I can't believe how it even all happened. It's just so surreal, right? Because I'm with my girlfriend. It's like about, I want to say 2 in the morning or something like that, from memory. Maybe 1 or 2 in the morning sounds about right. Somewhere along that time frame. And so we were asleep. And, you know, suddenly my phone rang. And the craziest thing was my phone rang, and it was the last person I would expect to have been ringing me at that time in the morning, because it was my ex. So my ex-girlfriend's ringing me. I'm with my new girlfriend, and let's just say that felt a little bit awkward in that moment. It's like, oh crap, what the hell is going on here? Like, why is she calling? And it was just strange, right? So anyways, she calls, and she suddenly, just says, hey. And I'm like, hey. And mind you, again, it's 2 a.m. It's not like it's 2 p.m. or something. It's 2 a.m. So it's like, okay, she's calling 2 a.m. Instantly, because of the time, I'm thinking, okay, something's happened, right? Now, obviously, I have no idea the magnitude of what had happened, but I thought maybe she was in trouble. Maybe she had a car accident. Maybe something happened, and she was calling me because she needed help or something. So because while 2 a.m, and I guess, well, to be fair, she could have just been thinking about me, and it was like just seeing how it was, I guess. So that's possible too. I mean, I guess it didn't have to be. I mean, I think all of us, every once in a while think about those who, even if they're an ex or something, from time to time they'll pop in our mind. So could be something like that. But anyways, she rings and she says, I think you better turn the TV on. And I'm like, what? She goes, I think you better turn the TV on. And so I'm like, okay. So now she's got me freaking out, because that's just not something normal to hear anyone say in a very kind of scary voice, right? Like, I think you should turn the TV on now. Check it. And the crazy thing was, I'm like, okay, it's 2 a.m. Okay, right? And anyways, I turned the TV on. Just so you guys know, I wasn't back home in the States, right? I was over in Australia. So just let me clarify the times, because that's important to this whole story. It was 2 a.m. in Australia, okay? Or 1 or 2 or 12 or 2. Somewhere in that vicinity of time, right? So anyways, okay, I turned the TV on and I'm flicking around, and suddenly I seen that they were talking about, these, airplane has crashed into the, freaking World Trade Center buildings or something, And so when I first heard that this had happened, first of all, when I'm looking at the screen, and I can't believe, my mind can't even process what had happened, right? Like I couldn't make sense of it. I was just like, what is this? Like, this is insane. This can't be happening, right? So at that point in time, when we first heard it, it's like thinking, okay, maybe it was just a bad accident, right? Something went wrong with the plane's navigation or something, and it unfortunately crashed or something. But then information started pouring in, because after that first moment, I could not take my eyes off the TV. I just kept it locked in, and I was watching it nonstop. And then it started saying it appears to be a hijacking, and that there's multiple airplanes, right? And now I'm like, holy crap, what's going on? And I started freaking out, right? Because then I started thinking, wait a minute, hold on. And I was like, my brother lives in New York, right? My brother lives in New York. And because again, this information's coming in, and I'm just like shocked, and I'm just like processing it all. And I'm like, crap, New York, my brother lives in New York. So, and the crazy thing is, I didn't know what part of New York my brother even was living in. I just knew he was in New York, right? So he lived in New York, means he was working in New York, means he was in New York. So I'm thinking, crap. First thing I attempt to do is I attempt to call my brother. I'm calling, and the phone is going, like making that warning, like it's not going through. Now, the craziest thing about it not going through is the message that it was saying on the phone. It was saying, due to twisters in the area, the phone lines are down. I'm like, what? Twisters, tornadoes? Like, what? What? So now I'm thinking, there's tornadoes, there's like, planes crashing into buildings, there's twisters, like what's going on? I'm starting to freak out, right? I'm thinking like, what's this is madness. What's going on? And it was worse because I couldn't get a hold of my brother. I could not get through. I kept getting that message. I could not get through. And obviously that message was because there was no message to say, oh, due to freaking some terrorist attack, or whatever, planes flying, like obviously there's no warning message for that. So they had this pre-recorded message about twisters in the area, but that was explaining why all the phone lines were to that area were down. So I'm freaking out, right? What makes matters worse is that I find out that one of the other planes are actually crashing into the Pentagon. My parents were living in the Pentagon, in that area. My family lived in the Pentagon. That's where my family were. So I'm now like, what? The Pentagon? My family's in the Pentagon? I'm losing it, right? I'm totally like, now I'm having a complete meltdown, okay? Like because now my entire family, my immediate family, like I'm thinking they're in danger. What's going on? Like and again, I couldn't get a hold of anybody. So I'm just like freaking out even more because again, the fear of the unknown, and you're hearing all this stuff's going on in multiple locations now. That's two of the, big parts of our country, right? You got New York World Trade Towers, you got freaking the Pentagon. I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is bad. This is really bad. And again, it sucked because all I knew is what I could see on TV like everyone else. And you know how it's like, it's even worse when you're far away from the people you love, right? And you can't do anything to help them. You feel so helpless. And you're worried and you're just like losing your mind. And it's just like, I don't even know what to even make of what's going on, right? Because all again is just got all this information coming in and stuff. But I just know that my family just happened to be in both of those particular locations, freaking out, right? Totally freaking out. So then, they started talking about who I was terrorists and this and that and all these things, and they start painting a picture of the whole scenario, right? And it starts coming in, and unfortunately, just like many people, when you start hearing certain information and you don't know the full story, you start getting a bit paranoid and, fear creeps in a bit, right? Because it's, again, the uncertainties, you start thinking the worst, you start thinking all these bad things. And suddenly, I know, like, during this whole process, so I'm just like freaking out. I'm just like, and I had to go to the convenience store. I had to go and get something from the convenience store. And so I went to convenience store, and I'm still like, I'm in a trance, right? Like, because besides that point of going to the convenience store, the rest of the time I was just glued into the TV. I was just, because that's all I had to go on. I, again, couldn't get in touch with my family. So went to the convenience store, and I'm like, again, finding myself in a situation where I'm just feeling like very fearful and uncomfortable because without knowing what's going on, I've seen some, people who had like turban type things on and stuff, and I didn't know where they were from, but just your mind starts thinking crazy stuff, right? So like I'm just like looking like this, to people who are probably completely fine and normal, but again, without having all the information and without having like just knowledge of what was really going on, like I'm just looking at everyone, period. Anyways, anyone that looked like, well, hold on, maybe they oh, who that, what's that, like, again, because I don't know what's going on. And it's crazy how fear makes people start getting crazy, right? And start thinking the worst and thinking crazy stuff. I start having all these crazy thoughts popping in my head and stuff. So anyways, as this is the first moments of all this going down, by the way, so this is all still fresh and it's just happening in that moment. So of course there's a bit of just uncertainty and fear and stuff, especially like, again, still don't know what's going on with my family. I still don't know what's happening. And, I'm just like, man, what the freak's going on? Like, is this something going on around the whole world? Is it just back home in the States? What's going on, right? And, it's a crazy thing, right? Because, like, I personally, like, I believe that there's good people and bad people of all races and all religions and genders and cultures and whatever you want to call it, from all places on the planet. There's good people, there's bad people of all those races and stuff. But like, needless to say, I gotta say, man, when it all first was going down in that first moments and not having a lot of information to go by and stuff, I was looking at everyone a little bit like extra, like, you know what I mean? And that's just me being real. And it's crazy to even think that I could be feeling a bit threatened or insecure about people who are, because I'm a people person and I love all people and I respect and appreciate all people. And I never think ever that a certain type of person, or like, I don't stereotype people. Like, I don't think automatically that a certain person from a certain country is a certain way or a certain thing. Like, I don't do that. I give everyone the benefit of the doubt. But again, 9/11 at that period of time, and a younger version of me as well at that point in time, I gotta say, I was feeling a bit threatened, insecure, nervous, fearful in that moment. And as I said when I started this video, again, it's really about the unknown things that we just don't know. There was not enough information to really know anything of anything, right? So all I knew is that bad stuff was happening and my family was in the middle of it, right? And it was crazy. The unknown, not knowing if they were okay, that is probably the one thing that I think is the hardest, right? It's just not knowing. Couldn't just easily hop in the car and drive and see if they were home or any of these things, because I was in a faraway country. I wasn't back home in the States, so had nothing to go by except for I had to wait for a phone call. And let me tell you, those hours waiting for the phone call to happen, to waiting for the phone to ring, waiting to be able to get through to them, just numerous times attempts to call, multiple times, just like, it was crazy, right? And then finally, when I found out that they all were okay, let me tell you, that feeling of relief was just absolutely just, there's just no words to describe how relieved I was. But even though I had felt that relief about my own family being okay, I still felt just some kind of way for everyone else and their families and the people who were going through something that, they still didn't have the answers, that they didn't have the phone call yet, that they were still not knowing what was going on. And my friends, and other people who may have been in that area. That's what my mind also started thinking is like, I remember thinking at the time, I was like, man, I've got friends who said they were from New York, like, and like in that moment, you just start thinking all this stuff. Like, I wonder if they're okay, right? And again, it's just one of those situations where, like, you start thinking the worst about everything, and you just instantly, like, New York's a big place, so, but in these moments, when you start hearing this kind of stuff, you just instantly go, oh my gosh, like, blah, 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 blah. And I think everyone does that, right? Until you get that confirmation, that peace of mind that they're okay. But, yeah, it was just nonstop. I think for like 48 hours straight, I think I didn't leave the TV. I think I completely just stayed focused on this whole event and just couldn't get it out of my mind. And it messed me up, man. Like, just from another side of things, like, I've always been one of those people who, like, I've never been a fan of, like, flying and the stuff as it is on the first, in the best of days, but I like flying, right? And so let me explain. I like flying itself, like the flying, but it's the what could go wrong type of scenario. Again, the fears of the unknown and the fears that people start thinking up and conjuring up in their mind and stuff, right? So that's the part that gets to me. It's not the flying, it's the potential crashing and stuff, right? Like that. So we all have those type of fears. And let me tell you, after I seen that, man, that just messed me up even more. Like, suddenly I'm like, man, no, I can't. Don't want to fly. Like, I'll take a boat, I'll take a ship. And then that's a story for another day, right? Because then COVID happened. It's like, I don't even want to be on a freaking ship either. Anyways, yeah, long story short, freaking one of the most just craziest moments I think that probably any of us have had in our lives, right? And just, we all have a story and we all have an experience and we all remember what we were doing during that time period. And personally, I just want to take a moment again, and if you guys haven't watch my previous video, the Bruce Springsteen tribute to 9/11 first responders, and watch that video. And also remember to drop in the comments your experience and your stories from 9/11 and stuff, because we all have one. And I think that sometimes it is actually just good to be able to talk about this stuff, right? To let it out, because I know there's people who still haven't been able to deal with what has happened, been able to come to terms with what has happened. And because a lot of people lost so much, and it's just horrible. And I just pray and hope that this type of horrible thing never happens again, that no one ever has to experience this and go through that again, because it's just unbelievable. We all need to, like, we all just need to freaking stop the madness as a race of people, like, the human race, that's the race that matters, right? It's the human race, not the freaking this race of people here, this race of people. No, the collective. It's all of us. We're all the same, right? We all need to start loving each other more and just respecting each other more, and having patience and understanding and forgiveness and all those sorts of things. It's the things that people really need to start making more of an effort to do, because it's just so sad and unfortunate that after all the things that's happened in history, it seems like people still don't have a clue. They're still not figuring it out, right? Like, still making the same mistakes, still doing the same dumb crap. It's like, come on, guys. Like, why don't we just stop with all the BS, and why don't we all start respecting and appreciating each other, no matter where you're from, no matter the color of your skin, no matter your gender, your sexual preferences, your no matter what it is, right? Why don't we just do that? You know, it's crazy. And yeah, I just wish that we had just more love for each other. And you would just hope that from these type of events that, you know, it would bring more people together and make people start thinking differently and wanting to, you know, change from the ugliness and start loving a bit more and becoming more united. And I always said, like I said in the other video, you know, like, it just sucks that it takes a tragic, horrible, devastating event like this before people decide they want to, you know, unite. And then they unite for that moment, and then as times, you know, goes, they start again kind of just, you know, drifting apart and stuff. It's just crazy. Like, I just wish that the planet would do better, that people would do better, and just learn from history and learn not to repeat those same mistakes, and just to learn and see the ugliness and the devastation and the hurt and the pain and the damage that this type of stuff does, and just want to stop, you know, the nonsense, stop the madness, and just come together and let love guide us into a better future, right? A united and just beautiful future where we're all working together to create a better world. I just don't get it. I don't understand why it's so hard for people to just put their crazy, stupid differences aside, because most of it's so petty and makes no sense. Anyways, that's my 9/11 experience. I think I'm going off on kind of, yeah. But yeah, my heart goes out to each and every person who has been impacted by this horrible event, and, you know, I'm sending all of you guys lots of love and huge hugs, and, you know, my condolences for anyone who suffered loss. And just, I hope that, oh, and also I want to, again, just give special thanks to the first responders. Like, what they did was so above and beyond, and they really just are the heroes, aren't they? As I was saying in the video yesterday, you know, like, it's crazy.